Howdy folks, don't know if anyone's watching it, but how are we all doing? It's been a while since I actually streamed anything, to be honest, so I'm a little bit out of practice, really. Been a while since I've done anything at all. Social media wise, well, not social media wise, but you know what I mean, YouTube, or anything like podcast or anything like that. So getting back into the swing of things. So today, obviously, sorry, I need to let Zach out, my dog. Obviously, today I'm going to be talking about Legends of Hamanshiron, the RPG that we're in the middle of writing still, and plan to be playtesting. We'll start playtesting in September, the end of September, early October. My plan was always, September was the hard line. Can't go past the end of September, but things have happened, and it might get held up a little bit. But it's going to be very soon, and it's going to be like, what's going to happen is basically me and the guys that are writing it are going to start playtesting second week in September, I think. Maybe third week in September. So we will playtest one adventure, probably two adventures before they go out, and then you guys will get to play it. So, what the idea behind Legends of Hamanshiron is basically, I've been playing D&D, Pathfinder on and off Pathfinder on and off since it came out, basically, and then D&D on and off since I was about 13 or 14. I've been playing RPGs a wee bit longer than that, but the things that annoy me about D&D have always annoyed me about D&D. Well, not so much second edition, because there was things in second edition that, some of it didn't make sense to me, but a lot of it did. A lot of the things that they did with third edition kind of fucked up what was in second edition, and then they've kind of dragged them all through to this point. I mean, I enjoy playing fifth edition. If you've ever watched my stream before, you've seen me having done GMing some D&D. If you haven't, it's on my YouTube. If you go to my Twitter, which I'm sure is somewhere. If not, it'll be somewhere on my. Well, it's at Dave's Hobby. Yeah, Dave's Hobby stuff on Twitter. As I said, it's been a while since I've done any streaming at all, and any YouTube or anything like that. So I'm a bit out of practice. Also with the chat. Sorry, drinking Iron Brew right before you go on stream, not the best idea. I'm wearing a Scotland shirt, so you can probably tell I'm Scottish if you hadn't already know that by the accent. That kind of throws people off sometimes when they see that. Because why would you be a Browns fan if you don't actually come from Cleveland, or your family doesn't come from Cleveland? Let's not get into that. Anyway, so there's a lot of things about D&D as it is that annoy the crap out of me. The strength, the combat rules, XP rules, gold, magic items. Don't get me wrong, I love playing D&D. I love the enthusiasm people get from playing D&D, but these things, and then it's not just me, it's the other people that are involved in the RPG as well. One or two of them have not. Two of them have. I don't think have actually played D&D up until this point. But me and the web developer in the group, the web app developer and all the rest of that kind of stuff, because we will have all that kind of stuff when we're doing it eventually. Both of us I played a lot of RPGs over the years, and a lot of even D&D, and it's the same things that annoy the both of us that come in D&D. A lot of it is to do with how real everything is, and I know that sounds crazy, given that it's a fantasy RPG. We're writing a fantasy RPG as well, but the way combat works in D&D doesn't fit the reality of combat, and we've got a gang who very much understands the reality of combat, and how medieval weapons work, how they interact with armour, all the rest of that kind of stuff. So we've got rules that what's the word? Simulate that a lot better than D&D, in my opinion. Obviously we haven't fully play tested it yet, but we will get into that and make sure that it does work right before we start showing you guys it. Let me check something. Yeah, so all the stuff that we're doing is us wanting to improve on the deficiencies we've seen in D&D, but it's not just that. It's not just the reason that we've done it. For me, it was when the new European internet rules that came out. I can't remember that. Was it Article 30? I think it was Article 30. So basically, you have to make sure that nothing that you've got that's copyright, nothing you've got streaming wise and all the rest of that kind of stuff's copyrighted, or if it is, you've got the permission of whoever it is to use, or they can revoke your permission. My brain right now cannot remember the ins and outs of it, but basically, Wizards of the Coast is a business like any other, like we're going to be, and they don't want people bad mouthing them. They don't want people giving them crap for stuff that they think's good but other people don't think's good. At the end of the day, they can revoke your permission to stream anything they do, like, or take stuff off YouTube, all the rest of that kind of stuff. So this was basically my idea to get around that. So I love all the streaming platforms, Defenders of Cobalt, and all of the TTRPG stuff that you get right now. But I wanted to do my own thing, and I thought to myself, well, I've always talked about writing my own RPG or my own game, not just RPGs. It was like tabletop board games and tabletop war games and all that kind of stuff. But TTRPGs seem like an easier thing to do. When you actually get into the middle of doing it, you realise it's not at all. But that's what happens when you start a new adventure. Because this is a new adventure for all of us and all you guys that are going to be playing it, and everyone basically. So that was really the original idea behind it, original push behind it, and why it's been going for so long. But what Legends of Hamanshiron is based on is a 20-year-old homebrew world that I have been playing D&D, Pathfinder, and various other rules through. So there's lots of history behind it, and there's lots of world behind it, and there's lots of history and world that has to be revised because, let's be honest, it's not particularly PC at points, because parts of it were written when I was 13, 14, 15, 16, when I wasn't fully using my brain. Now it's changed, now things have progressed, I've progressed, all that is kind of stuff. So anything that's taken from a culture like the Egyptians, so there's a country called, I can never remember the country's name, which doesn't bode well for me sometimes, but it does some other things. Right, so Rastia, country called Rastia. So basically, Rastia it's not particularly pseudo-Egyptian. The idea behind their armed forces is very much the Egyptians, so chariot, like Middle Kingdom Egyptians, but it's been updated. So it's not like, what annoys me about a lot of the images you see of Egyptians and all the rest of that kind of stuff is it's like in fantasy stuff is it's the typical thing you're expecting, Pharaoh on the chariot that is completely out of place, and it just annoys you when you look at it because it's not historically accurate. So basically, if anything's taken from an actual culture, it's appropriately, researched, and it's in the case of the Rastians, because they're basically Egyptians without the pyramids, all the rest of that kind of stuff. Is that their armour has been updated, their weapons have been updated, the way that their chariots were built were updated from Middle Kingdom. The Middle Kingdom or New Kingdom? New Kingdom? Can't remember off the top of my head now. Brain, the way it works. So they're taken from basically Middle Kingdom Egyptians. Those Middle Kingdom Egyptians are, instead of it being guys running around in kilts, like white kilts and stuff, they've got leather armour. Still got the kilts, but it's like leather kilts. Chariot runners are armoured. The drivers, their armour's updated. All the rest of this kind of stuff. So it's updated, but it's it works. It works with the aesthetic of that particular country, place. So it's all these kind of things. It's not purely European based. One of the most wealthy part of Hamanshiron, which is the world, obviously, that we're going to be playing in, is actually the not totally African, but they look like African people would in this world. So, but also that's the thing. A lot of what you see in RPGs now, I'm guilty of it. I've played mostly all pretty much European characters, except from when I played stuff like Legends of the Five Rings, when obviously I'm playing a samurai, or I played Oriental Adventures, where you're playing basically samurai, but it's cartoony samurai. It's not how samurai actually wear. So you got to, every place it's appropriate. So the sea elves are merchants, because they are way below the equator, and the sunniest part of one of the sunniest parts of Hamanshiron, they're all dark skinned, because that's appropriate for the part of the world that they're in. In fact, the vast majority of Hamanshiron is partially under the equator. So there's only one continent that's completely above the equator, and that's Valantaria, which is mostly European. It's parts of the other continents that are partly European as well, but also there's cultures from everywhere. There's an entire continent that's well, not for the most part, as evil like races or dark races in this particular set of rules. But you know, there's good races surrounded by them on that particular continent because of a period in Hamanshiron's time where the Dark actually was in control of the world, and the Light had to fight back. So, that's a little backstory and a little understanding of what we're trying to do. So to the rules, I've done a couple of these where I've talked about rules development and the rest of that kind of stuff. So the rules are partly card based, partly dice based. So when you're building characters, you'll get a deck of cards. Any deck of cards will do. We're currently deciding on what to call it because we can't call it a fate deck because we're weird would sue the shit out of us, I would think, because they use fate decks for Malifaux and Through the Breach, and I think they use it for the other side. I'm not 100% sure because I've not actually played the other side. You can tell me. So fate deck or Tarot of the Gods or Luck deck or something. We haven't decided what to call it yet. So your ordinary deck of cards. Oop. I'm just shuffling them. We'll just go through this process and let me check something actually. Sorry, my brain just farted there. I apologise for some things that I might do because my brain just goes do this, do that, do that. So I'll be pleased in a second because my brain is not working and I need to do this. Sometimes I will get my brain stuck on something that I need to do and I need to do it right away. Done. It's driving me nuts. Driving me absolutely nuts. But then, lots of things that drive me absolutely nuts. So, so character generation. I should have just put it on my start thing. sorry guys. So character generation, normal deck of cards. For the most part, or the main character generation is done doing picking up a card. So this, for instance, is 8 of clubs. So the first thing you would be doing is your race or species, sentient species. I think we changed the name to race has negative connotations and all this, that kind of stuff. So species, sentient species, I think is the name we're going to go with. So 8 of clubs. So if we bring up on, which one is it? Yes, it's this one. So this is the database of all the details and stuff. So if we bring up race, select roles, right, for each race we have red joker, black joker, king, queen, jack, 10, 9, all the way to ace, and then down to black joker, red joker. So depending on what alignment your character is, so whether they be light or neutral or dark, the red joker or the black joker are going to be either the best or the worst card that you can pull out of the fate deck. We're going to call it fate deck just now because it's easy to call it that right now. So we're going to pull, so if you pull a red joker and you're a light character, you get the best stats that you can get as a race or a class or any of the other things that you can you get from a character generation. So pulled 8 of clubs. So if we go with human, and a club doesn't matter in this content for character building. The suit doesn't matter because we changed the name of the suits anyway for the fate deck anyway. Because when we actually release our own ones, you're going to be able to still use a normal deck of cards, but we're going to have our own ones with our own like suits, because we're also going to have games that we've made up for the world that you're going to be able to play with it as well. So that's the 8 of clubs. So with an 8, human has strength 4, agility 3, will 3, intelligence 3, coordination. So basically everything but your strength is a 3, which isn't bad. So if we bring up the next one, so character class. So depending on what character class you want to play, not every single one has been put out right now because we're still working on ones that are going to be core ones that are going to be done later. So bear with. What are we going to do? We're going to go with no those names because I can't even pronounce them. They're Scottish, but well, Gaelic. Right, let's just go with War Mage. Where is the War Mage? There's the War Mage. So for that, you pulled an 8 of clubs. So the 8 of clubs goes back into the deck and you shuffle it again. And this time pull the 10 of clubs. So with War Mage at 10, strength of 3, agility 4, will of 3, well everything but your agility's on a 4, on a 3, sorry. So all his stats run between a 7 and a 6. So that's not a bad thing with Legends of Hamanshiron. That sounds like most rule sets that'd be a pretty low but with bonuses and everything, that's actually pretty high stats. Some races have 5s, some of the larger races will have 6s or 7s or 8s, and obviously all the character classes have between 5 and 2. Right, so having a 2 is not good. Having 2s across the board means you're basically the average of your race. Starting out, like well, not the average. Like a normal human would start on all 4s, just because they're humans. They're not particularly good at anything. They're not particularly bad at anything. But so that is another part of the character generation. So that's that would be the 2 cards. So the 8 of clubs and the 10 of clubs would be the 2 cards that you get for your abilities. So when you're doing this, you either note it down or you take all your abilities and what have you down at the time before you start any of the work on the actual building of the character. So the next one you do, pull the king. So the next one you do is your skill points. So this is skills are basically what they are in any other game. So at the top here we've got the king is 22 skill points. So I'll actually take you to the skill points, but just now with one of the other. Nope, that's not right. So this is a skill table. Skill list, not skill table. This is what I started using, building the rulebook with, but I'm using another program right now. So this hasn't been updated in a while, but I will in later times. I will bring the one that we're actually using. So skills are basic and fundamental abilities that character have. It encompasses their training, knowledge and proficiency. Number of skills are limited to one class or another. Number of skills will be unavailable to certain classes during the character building process. So skill checks. Maximum skill points that can be put in a skill is 10. Maximum the amount of points into each skill is the skill point level or SPL. So that's in the rules. You have an SPL level and all this that, and then it would bring up the skill checks taken on d20s, and you have to score at least 1 success. When you do, it's a simple with 5 d20s at a roll of +3 skill check, and intermediate 4 d20s at your skill check. So that was skill point level. I need to fix that. Difficulty check with 3 d20 at -3, 2 d20 for an extremely difficult with -6, and almost impossible single d20 at -9. So you can supplement these dice from your dice pool or talents you may have. So if you score 2 more successes than required, then the GM places dice in your group dice pool. Total minimum target number can never be lower than 2 and never higher than 18, and regardless of positive and negatives. I think that's probably shitty English, but I'm Scottish. So these are the vast majority of the skills at the moment. So obviously with a war mage, you're either going to be close combat or you're going to be close combat and magic. Specifically, that's going to be where your main focus lies. So obviously close combat is a skill. You're going to take high close combat skill points, and then with arcane magic, because you are this is a war mage. Excuse me. Their arcane magic is from their intelligence. Some arcane magic is charisma, some arcane magic, they take their skill ability from so it's intelligence, charisma, and will. So witches or will, because witches have got their power from a pact with a powerful being. So in one of the adventure lines, one of the NPCs is a witch who has got her power, his or her power, I'm not actually sure because it's not me that's writing it, from an air elemental. So like a particularly powerful air elemental, so all of her, their powers, like all their spells and everything, are air based. So, and I'll get into that once we move on. So that would be the skill points that they would get. And next you pick talents. So talents are basically talents are all the stuff that you can do, like you can, all the stuff you've learned over the years. Basically, there's a reason why knowledge and lore are two different skills with this. So lore is like legends and all this, that kind of stuff, whereas knowledge is stuff you actually know, like stories, lore stories and all the rest of that kind of stuff. There's differences in them. So knowledge is like the strategy of knowing the strategy of like orcs or orcan in this, whereas lore would be, you know, orcan warriors of note, I suppose, is a good one. So anyway, so with weapon talents, you have various levels of talent with different weapons. So with unarmed attacks, there's particular weapons that are unarmed attacks. If you've got the unarmed attacks talent, you can use unarmed attacks, but you can specialise in using your bare fists, gauntlets, spike gauntlets, etc. If you have light bladed weapons, if you are proficient in light bladed weapons, you can also wield medium and heavy bladed weapons at a lower penalty to somebody that hasn't got any skill in using them. But also you can be more proficient in a particular weapon in the class of weapons. So in this case you've got lightly bladed weapons, so you get goblin slicer, goblin dog slicer, switchblade razor, boot blades, scissor. With medium bladed weapons you've got long swords and scimitars and all the rest of that kind of stuff. Heavy bladed weapons are great swords and falchions, but where this kind of deviates from D&D is it's hafted and handled weapons. So hafted weapons are handled weapons, sorry, are throwing spears, you know, quarter staffs, staffed weapons basically. Whereas handled weapons, hafted weapons are, you know, axes, etc. So they've all got it's all with the same basic attack and action. So obviously with the handled weapon you're doing that kind of thing, you know, pushing into the enemy, and obviously with a hafted weapon you're on a, you know, like an axe or a hammer, you're doing that kind of action with it. So so if you're, you know, you can use a club, you can use a battle axe, basically, you know, it's all the same basic actions. Well, that's the idea behind it, and that's coming from the weapons expert that we've got. But it's also like the martial arts weapons are all like all the exotic weapons will kind of branch into other things, but you get extra penalties for using an exotic weapon when you don't have the proficiency for it. So where are we? So right. So yeah, that is not all the talents. There is lots more talents. The idea behind the core rulebook is all the rules are there, like all the rules that you're going to need in a game, no matter where you're playing it, no matter what part of Hamanshiron you're playing it in, you're going to have all the rules you need to play the particular game. All the talents, all the skills, all the spells are going to be there. There's not going to be any extra stuff for that. How you doing, mate? Oop. Didn't realise you'd commented. Howdy, Barbarian CNX. It's nice to have you in. Hello again. Yeah, so with the set of rules, you're going to have everything you can need to, or you will need to play a game. All of the setting books are going to be essentially just the setting. They'll have like monsters and stuff like that for that particular part of the world. With the first setting book, our plan is to put out all the cavalry rules, because very little of the time I played RPGs you actually need to use vehicle rules or cavalry rules or anything like that. So it's not it's kind of taking up space in the core rulebook. The core rules need to be in, so it's going to go into that. It's going to be the same. There's a place called the Underlands, which is, well, it's essentially Hamanshiron's Underdark, where different species of elves and dwarfs and humans, etc., live. So they're not going to be in the main rulebook to play as character races. The rules for them will be in the Adversaries Codex, but the actual like character classes won't be in there, or won't be in the main rulebook, because it's not character classes, character races is going to be difficult to fill, 200 or 300 character races. Well, that's a bit excessive, but you know what I mean. So yeah. Oh shit! I keep on playing it. Dropping cards when I'm playing with them. Shuffle them. So yeah. Where was I? I got lost when I started talking. I get pulled aside from what I was doing. Right, so what I was talking about was character generation. So I've been through parts of it, but essentially every part of character generation is done by a card. Whether it be your race, your class, your skills, talents, how many spells you've got, or how many spell points you've got. So every spell has a spell point, same as a skill point, and you have a number of spells that you can use per day, or until you rest fully. But with the spell, I'll go bring up spells. So spells. Yeah, so that's what it was. So spells and powers are similar to skills. You have a value added dependent on points you spend on them, but different than that, the value is equal to the number of dice you can roll to cast a spell or power. Only bonuses you can get to your defined magic skill or psionic skill are through situational bonuses or talents. Points value is to denote how well the character knows the spell or power at their disposal. disposal. Like, as I said before, all this stuff is when we started writing it. It has been updated because it's on a different program, but this is what I used to show people in what I'm doing right now, because obviously all the different rules, it's easier to navigate this than it is to navigate all the stuff that I've been doing, having all separate. But what happens with character generation, as I've been saying, is I'll bring it up with the nope, not. So when we're going to be doing our online tools, the databases that we've been building, this is them. But they've just got all the skill points, talent points, races, all the stuff you need to know. So I'm just gonna so skill points. So why is that not right? Oh, that's why. If you're not doing it right, David. Right, so for my brain is starting to go crappy again. Right, so war mages. Right, so I'm gonna go again. So just build a queen. So with the war mage that I've been talking about, they would have 20 spell points to use. So I've actually got a pre-generated war mage in here somewhere. Right, that's what I was doing. Right, so I'll go back to that page and talk about it a wee bit more. Keep on hitting the wrong thing. So yeah, so I'm going to scroll down a wee bit. Yeah, so when I was putting that the first character together, it was a war mage. So when we talk about skill points, so they've got elemental weapon. Well, again, this has since changed what we're doing. So with the characters, they're depending on what kind of wizard they are, or what kind of warrior they are, or all the rest of the war mage they are, depending on what school of magic they've come from, depends on whether or not their attacks are elemental, or if they were a necromancer, it's imbued with ectoplasm or illusionist magic, or all the different types of magic that you can have imbues your magic abilities. So that's why when you look at the spells, you have magical weapon, or magical wall, magical explosion. It's not elemental explosion, it's not fireball, it's not lightning bolt, it's not anything like that, or ectoplasmic wall or anything, because the problem with that, doing that, like having various spells that are essentially the same thing, but there's a little bit of difference because of the element of magic that imbues it. So ectoplasm, illusion, whatever it is you have a big stupid list of rules, a big stupid list of spells, which you could just shrink into one and just go, well, because you're a elementalist, you can have electric wall, you can energy, no, not energy wall, electrical, like fireball, or a wall of fire, wall of electricity, wall of water, wall of earth, wall of wind, whatever. So you're imbuing elemental magic in that particular power, that particular spell. It obviously limits necromancers or etc. Not, it's not so much that it limits them; it changes the way you play them compared to elementalists. Now, elementalists are, they're the jack of all trades, really, for combat mages. So, they also have a limit to the amount of spells they can actually use, compared to other schools of magic. It's part of the rules, because they would only be you using elemental magic for certain things. So everything has its limits in the rules. So my head is kind of I've only been at it for like less than an hour, but it's very, very warm here in Scotland. I know we always complain about it being absolutely freezing for most of the time, but it's not. It's sweltering, and I've had to close the windows as well, which makes it even worse. So I'm going to move away from the rule stuff because I can talk about that forever. You really need to play it, I suppose, to actually see how it works and if you're going to enjoy it. So what I'm going to move on to is actually where we're putting all the lore now, and keeping it in one place because it's in hundreds of different bits of paper and books and not video files. I was going to say video files. Word files and Scrivener files, and it's just everywhere. So I'm trying to put it all into one place. So the tool that I've been using is World Anvil. Now, this can be used by, and is used by writers, it's used by GMs, and it's used by content creators like myself and the guys that I'm working with. So what I've been doing is, for the last couple of weeks I've not been doing very much because obviously I've been on holiday, but before that I was working on the summer camp which World Anvil do every year. So they give you a list of various different I don't know whether or not it's still up, but I'm going to have a look actually. Like various different prompts. It's not up anymore. They give you various different prompts and you work on a particular article for that prompt. So I'm going to actually have a wee look for one of the ones I did for it. Did I do that one for it? I don't think I did. Oh, like the Greater Temple of Salakira. Salakira is the mother goddess, so the mother nature for Hamanshiron, and this particular temple. So community challenges. So write about a ceremonial building in your world and what takes place there. I didn't do this like every single one, but I did a few of them. So basically, it's got all the information that I put in at the time. But the great thing about this is you can edit it. You can add notes to it for storytellers and GMs. So it means that stuff that you know but nobody else knows can be on that particular thing, that particular article, and also you can link articles through. So the Aledel, for instance, are the original elves, So I'm going to go to I'm going to show you in the actual. So they'll link all the other elves. So when you actually go onto the world, so you view Hamanshiron, as you can see. So the Aledel, so the sentient species are Aledel, which are elves, humans, Yalit, which are the original halflings, and various other races. So when you look at it, you can see all the elves there. Which ones are this again? That's the wild elves. So a lot of them are very much stubs. They're very much. It's all very much a work in progress. But the sea elves were one of the races that I did. I think before we did the summer camp stuff. But this is all the kind of information that you can put in. And when you actually go to edit it, no, let's create a new article. Don't want to create a new article. So edit species. So there's lots and lots of information that you can put in. See, you've got parent species. You can put in whether the species is extinct. Conservation status. Obviously, if that's like a livestock or an animal, you can put conservation status, anatomy and morphology, so physical design of the species. So if they're not obviously humanoid like ourselves, if they've got 4 or 8 or whatever arms, you put that in. Perception and sensory and extrasensory capabilities, so height, sight, all the rest, that kind of stuff, which I will put in at some point. Genetics and reproduction, if you really need to put that in. Growth rate and stages, so the age, how they age, their ecological habitat, biological cycle, dietary needs and habits, all this, that kind of stuff. And then you go into extended. So biological traits, average lifespan, height, weight, length, though that's for more sea creatures, I suppose, and stuff that have length rather than height, or both, because we don't really have length. Humanoids don't really have length. So geographic distribution, so in this case sea elves live almost exclusively in their enclaves in Southern Islands, but are more likely to count them in a port city or in the 6 seas, which is wrong, because there's more than 6 seas. I keep on calling it the 6 seas, but that's wrong. I need to fix that. I need to really fix that soon. Like most elves, the sea elves have an average IQ a bit higher than humans. Sea elves around 125 to 130 IQ points, so a little bit more intelligent, but not massively more intelligent. Sea elves are normally quite stocky for an elf, but also retain the grace and speed of their cousins. So that's their average physique, facial characteristics and features, body tint, colour and markings. So because, as I was saying earlier, most, if not all, sea elves live where they do, their melanin is much darker than the elves that you see in most fantasy stuff. So they all have dark African skin tones to the tropical nature of the islands. The fact that islands have actually lived that they'll actually live on no longer have any trees to protect their skin from the suns. So there's multiple suns in Hamanshiron. That would be Zach groaning. I've been going on too long, I think. So sapience. So obviously I've not put any of the history or stuff in at the moment. It's common etiquette, dress code. There's so much stuff that you can put into the world anvil, and just one article and just one race, whatever you're putting it in, and there's just so much information that you can put in, which seems daunting when you're first doing it. Trust me, seems daunting when you're first doing it, but it's actually good because it gets your brain thinking. When I was doing all of the Orcan and the dwarves and the gnomes, that's the Nalavar for everyone else. So all these, it's like, how does this link to that, and how does that link to that, and where, So for the where are they? The Elfkin. Where is it? Oh, there they are. Right, so I'm going into this one. So Elfkin are basically their two parent species are High Elves and Orcan, and it's not a happy mix of the two, because as I was saying earlier, there was a period of time in Hamanshiron's history that the Dark were actually the ones in charge of the world. So these Orcan mated with the Elves, not what the Elves were wanting, because they took over these High Elf enclaves. So eventually the Elfkin overthrew the parents, the Orcan parents, after 300 years. They're a distinct species on their own, but have many of the traits of both of the parent races. So they still live in the strongholds that the Orcan took over, but they also have intermingled with the rest of the world a lot better than a lot of elves do. Not because, the typical elf reason that people make. It's just because High Elves and Wood Elves and all the rest of them, they live for such a long time that mingling with the races isn't what they do, really. I mean, Wood Elves do, because they have other races that live with them, like gnomes and halflings, so they are more likely to interact with the other races. But Elfkin have went out specifically to integrate themselves in society, because they understand better than most what the isolation that the High Elves that they come from, what can happen to them. So yeah, it really is quite interesting, all of this stuff that you can add to an entry in World Anvil. I'll get myself what the really cool ones are. Dwavi Karad. I think this is one of the ones I did for the community challenge. Nope, didn't do that. So Dwavi Karad are mountain dwarfs, and these are the guys that, along with mountain gnomes. Now mountain gnomes is a misnomer, because all gnomes are just gnomes. All gnomes are pretty much the same. Just because a gnome lives in a mountain doesn't mean they're any different from a gnome that lives in a forest. They just look a wee bit different. Their skin colour might be a different. One might be taller than the other or whatever, but there's no actual real physical difference between a gnome from one part of the world and a gnome from another part of the world. In fact, pretty much every gnome considers every other gnome family, which is cool. But mountain gnomes and the Dwavi Karad, or mountain dwarves, created steam engines, firearms, discovered lots of different metals, obviously because the Dwavi Karad are the miners. They bring loads and loads of different metals up from their mines. So yeah. Also airships. They designed airships too. So this, could go on forever. I could add loads and loads and loads of stuff that is absolutely superfluous to anyone that doesn't just enjoy lore. I love doing lore. This was one of my favourite things. that was the wrong thing to be picking on. Yeah, so it's cool for me to have something like this. Obviously, you can see there's lots of draft stuff that hasn't actually been put up. So, the Eternal Guard. So Valentar, or Valentar? Yeah, I'm sure it's Valentar. Country, yeah, Valentar. I get my own places mixed up. The Eternal Guard is essentially Valentar's army. Valentar's the biggest single nation in the whole of Hamanshiron. That's where the Council of Light meet. So the Council of Light are obviously the good races that all band together and make decisions on various bits and pieces that affects all the good races. But the Eternal Guard are the army of Valentar, which is a republic, which is a bit unusual for a medieval world, I'll admit. But so these are various branches of the Eternal Guard. So at some point those will get put up. So yeah, I'm not that great at talking sometimes, but I'm trying my best right now. So what else am I going to talk about? Nope, that's not what I'm going to go to. Anything you want to know? Ask me. There's only one person in the viewing this right now, so I'm assuming it's you, Barbarian, but maybe not. Anything at all that I can answer, I will answer. Yeah. I'm just going to be making noises and stuff right now. Where am I? Aye, sorry. I'll be back in a sec. I'm back. So yeah, anything at all? Got a question? Ask. Because I like talking about Hamanshiron and everything that we're doing, but I don't want to like talk about it for hours and hours and hours and bore the shit out of somebody. But also my brain starts going, oh, where am I going? What am I doing? Don't know what's wrong with it right now. Well, I do know what's wrong with it. I've not had enough sleep in the last 3 weeks because I've spent so much time getting work and enjoying the fact that I don't have to go to work. But yeah, I never talked about the Fate deck. That's the thing. Really, I talked about the fact that it's how we do character generation, but the initial idea was to use just one single deck of cards with the red Joker and the black Joker in it. Very similar to the way that they do the weird games. So hence why we called that a Fate deck. But obviously couldn't do that for a game that would actually publish, because I think Weird would have a great big issue with that fact. So the idea is with the Fate deck is if you fail a skill test or a combat test or an armor save or whatever it is that you really need to pass, you can use a fate point. Now every character's got fate points. NPCs have got fate points. Not low level NPCs. So we have 3 different classes of NPCs. We have mob NPCs, we've got sergeant NPCs, and we have hero NPCs. So hero NPCs are essentially exactly like the characters that you're going to be playing. So they've got equivalent amounts of fate points. Well, maybe. The thing is, you guys are, when you play it, are going to be using fate points to do skill tests to get into places or get out of places or what have you, whereas adversary NPCs are going to be only using it in combat. So you're going to have used fate points that they won't have used. So we'll probably lower their fate points a little bit, depending on your character's effective level, or what was the name that I used? Danger level. So the idea was we were only going to use 1 deck of cards, but we've been talking about it and we're actually going to be using 2 decks of cards. So this is what a Fate deck will actually look like when it's combined. So our idea is to eventually do like a starter set where you will have 2 Fate decks. Obviously 1 Fate deck, or a full Fate deck and a half Fate deck. So a half Fate deck is obviously a normal deck of cards like this one, whereas a full Fate deck is that. So when I was talking about red Jokers and black Jokers being the best cards that you can get, so if you, in during character creation, I never said this, I am completely all over the place today, let's create that. So red Jokers, if you're a good character or a light character, or you're a neutral character who is walking in the light at that particular time, red Joker is the best card you can pull. Whether it's in character creation or whether it's in play. Red Joker in character creation gives you an extra fate point. You can only have a maximum of 10, 12 total fate points, but with character generation, your maximum 6. So humans start with 4. At the beginning of character generation, every other race starts with 3. So the minimum you can have is 2. The maximum you can have at character generation is 6. Excuse me, 2 6. Ooh, and an E. I'll be back in a minute. Sorry about that. Where was I? Oh yeah, talking about character generation. So the fate points. Obviously, the more fate points you have, the more choices you have when things are going wrong, or the more opportunity you have for making them go right. So if you're a good character, red joker's the best card you can pull, black joker's the worst card you can pull. So for skill checks, if you fail a skill check, you really need to pass a skill check. What happens is basically 2 seconds, I'll actually bring it up on here for me, because I normally screw up. So when you want to pass a failed skill check, skill check requires the player to pick a colour or a suit depending on the difficulty of the test. Easy and intermediate, a colour can be chosen. If the player is a light character and high king, which is the red joker, is pulled, it is a pass no matter what difficulty, and the fate point is refunded. If the Lord of Tyranny is pulled, a further fate point is lost and it fails, and vice versa. The character is that character. Right, so if it's a difficult or above test, you have to choose the suit that you have to pull. So in the instance of say let me see, an extremely difficult skill test, you have to say, right, I want to cheat fate and I want to do it with, say, a heart. So I pulled a king of hearts, absolutely passed that test. In the case of almost impossible skill check, sorry, you have to have, if you are a good character, it has to be hearts or diamonds. If you're an evil character, it has to be spades or clubs. Not spades or clubs, sorry. In the case of an impossible, an almost impossible, it has to be hearts. And for fuck this up all the time. In the case of an evil character, it has to be spades. It can't be anything else. You have to pull a heart, you have to pull a spade, or you have to pull a red joker or a black joker. So for this instance, in that instance I pulled an ace of hearts, an ace of diamonds. I'd have failed it. Anyway, the idea behind having two decks is that you're going to be doing skill checks, you're going to be doing combat checks, but also the enemies are going to be doing it, or the adversaries are going to be doing it as well. So it's so people, and I know this isn't going to happen a lot, but it's so people don't count the deck and go, right, okay, that's been out, that's been out, that's been out. It makes it much harder to go, right, all these cards have been pulled, what's left? Is it an idea to pull to try and do fate? So there's a 3, Queen of Hearts. I haven't obviously shuffled these very well. You shuffled them again. But what happens in a session is if you end your session and the adventure isn't complete, you get refunded fate point. Always get refunded the fate point at the beginning of a session, or at the end of a session. But there are ways of you getting more fate points back during an adventure. If, and this is a very big if, because there's 108 cards in that deck now, you actually manage to go through an entire deck in a session, and it would be an absolute marathon of a session, then you get refunded a fate point. I do not see that happening ever, but I mean, it would be an absolute marathon of a session. You would have to be like dozens of characters and loads of NPCs, but you know, might happen. So the idea behind you also doing a fate test or using the fate deck during combat is or any opposed test. It doesn't need to be just a combat test, because the idea behind this game is we don't only do combat. Combat's not the be all and end all of the game. So any opposed check, no matter what it is, GM pulls a card, player pulls a card. So if the player is playing a light character, in the event or the player or GM pull a high king, scores a critical pass and the fate point is refunded, and it is the player wins. The opposite is true for Lord of Tyranny. If the player is a light character, it causes, if GM or player pulls Lord of Tyranny, which is the Black Joker, causes critical fail and a second fate point is lost. If the player character is dark or a neutral player favouring the dark, then this is reversed. So we put in rules where you can play light characters and dark characters, and I'll explain that a little bit later. So for instance, if the player pulls a red diamond, right, and it's not it was a black club rather than a black spade, the player, like a 7 of black club and a black spade, black clubs and black spades. They are black clubs and black spades. Oh man. So if the player is light and pulls a 10 of hearts and the GM pulls a 10 of clubs, right, the player wins. But if the player had pulled a 10 of diamonds and the GM a 10 of spades, then it's the GM that wins because the order of precedence. So for light characters, it's the Red King. Suit order of precedence is hearts, diamonds, clubs, spades, and the order of number holds the worst card. For dark characters, or again neutral characters, playing or favouring the dark, its precedence is Lord of the Underworld, spades, clubs, hearts, no, diamonds, hearts, and High King's worst card. So that's the basics of the Fate deck. And I know I don't explain things very well a lot of the time, but I do try my best. I've got my wee notebook here that I was making notes in the other day. So we have had, as I was saying, we do have had a few rule changes recently that we've been playing about with. So it's changing from single deck to double deck for sessions. So every new session, 1 fate points returned, and roll a d6 for return of any more. So 5 plus returned. Oh, and after the end of an adventure, they're always returned. So once you move on to the next adventure, you've always got fate points. You've always got all your fate points back. So we're going to do the same for spells as well, because, well, not entirely the same, but every character class that uses spells or powers has a number of spells or powers they can use, and it's not per day, it's per rest. So if you have a half rest, like a 5-hour rest, you get half of your spells back that you've used, or if you do a 12-hour rest, like a full rest, you get your full lot back. But we'll also at the end of each session, you can roll a dice and on a 5+, you get a spell back. And you can do this as many times as you have spells until you fail, in which case you can't do any more. So, different things to make things a little bit different. So, yeah. So that's Fate decks. That's the Fate deck. That's the idea behind the Fate deck. Also, an adventure. What an adventure is made up of, and what will happen during an adventure as well. So, adventure, obviously, central point to the journey that your character's embarking on. Whether it's a trek through the Badlands of Ryoki, climbing in the Skyguard Mountains in search of the lost peaks of Cardonans, or battling gnolls in the other dark races in the jungles of Elkinara. An adventure can be as detailed or as loose a story as you decide, but there's always key moments that drive and fuel the story. So first thing you've got is your opening scene. So character's reason for starting an adventure is revealed. Well, it's to rid the village of troublesome goblins rolling from the Zandaran footmills, fighting undead in the bowels of the long dead Ijipuri and Saltland's decaying palace, or looting the mysteries of an underworld complex of a long lost civilization. Whatever the adventure may be, this is where your adventure jump off point is. This is where the GM begins weaving their story for you, or weaving your story. There's a better word for it. So obviously, like the reason that I put this in is, or I'm putting this in the rules, is not everyone knows how to build an adventure, and the way that the game's set up is, or this particular game is set up, is that you can do anything you want with your adventures. You could play an entire adventure where there is no combat whatsoever, and you will advance as quickly as anyone that is doing combat, because what happens is, for every skill check you do, you get experience. So where's the adventure? So for easy skill check, you get 10 experience. For a difficult or a intermediate, you get 20 experience. For a difficult one, you get 30 experience. Extremely hard one, you get 40, 50. That's the idea at the moment. We might change that a little, like double them as they move up, but I think that is pretty much, for each enemy you fight, you get experience. So for a danger level half, so that's a highwayman, you get 50 experience. But also, if that's because the danger level half. If you are if your party is danger level 4, then danger level half is danger level 1/8. So you get like 5 experience for fighting them. So enemies level as you level. Enemies get easier and harder as you level up. There's not actually levels, but it's your effective danger level, your character's effective danger level. So if your character's effective danger level is a half, these highwaymen are danger level 1. So therefore they're 100 experience. So in order for you to be your character party to be danger level half, they have to have really screwed the pooch with character generation. But at the same time, it's not really screwing the pooch, because the GMs will have ways of limiting the amount of damage to the characters that they can do. So if it's a danger level 1 party, it's 2d4 highwaymen. If it was danger level half party, then it'd be D4 Highwayman they'd encounter. So you still get the same amount of experience, but it's half the danger. You get what I mean? Or the same potential amount of experience, but the actual danger level is lower because you're fighting less of them. Also with like puzzles and stuff like that, we'll have like a sliding scale of how difficult a puzzle is, how much experience you get. One of the adventures that's getting written just now is an entire sea-based adventure where there will be very, very little combat. It's a lot of diplomatic stuff. It's a lot of, getting everyone on the ship on your side for when something attacks, in order to try and steal what's on the ship. As far as I'm aware, that's the idea behind it, because I'm not the one writing it. I'm writing a couple of adventures. I'll be writing a Patreon only, because we have got a Patreon that's going to go live in the next couple of days. But I'm going to be doing a Patreon only adventure line for the playtest, but that'll start in the second round of playtests. But we're all different. All of us are writing our own adventures. I think that's me for today, actually, because I think the dogs are going off their head right now. So thank you, Barbarian, everyone else that's jumped in. I'll be on again at some point in the near future. See you later.